Hello, everybody. My name is Michael Tejas. I am currently serving as your chair of elections here at CSUN Associated Students, and I will be your moderator today for this debate. I am also alongside our fabulous.
Hello, I'm Kiana Requena. I am a graduate senator and an elections committee member.
Kiana, don't you think it's a little hot today?
It is. It's a little warm.
Yeah. But luckily, the elections is hosting popsicles with the candidates today at 1:30 p.m. over there at the Matador Square. That is right in front of our Matador statue. So you can go in there, have a free popsicle, have a free some ice cream. It's all for you. You deserve it. Sweet treat. Midterms are wrapping up right now. Go ahead, go get some.
We have options that have dairy and non-dairy options as well. So
Yeah.
choose your pick.
Yeah. I heard it's really good.
I did too.
Yeah. So, I would like to introduce you all to our presidential candidate, Cheyenne Moshtail. Cheyenne, you can now come to the stage.
Hello, Michael. Hello, Kiana. Thank you so much, both of you, for having me.
Yeah.
We're happy to have you. How are you?
I'm doing exquisite. I'm doing just dandy. How about the both of you?
Also dandy.
I am fantastic today.
Excellent.
Yeah. So, Cheyenne, would you like to introduce yourself to the voters out there?
Sure, I would love to introduce myself. My name is Cheyenne Moshtail. I currently serve as the Associated Students Attorney General. I am a third year, double majoring in political science and history. And I am a proud student of this campus, California State University, Northridge.
Fantastic. Thank you, Cheyenne. From what I know, you have some opening remarks and opening statement that you want to give out to the voters. You can go ahead whenever you're ready.
Yes, definitely. Well, I'd like to let all the voters know as my opening statement that I desire to be a president, the Associated Students president of this university, because of all the wonderful experiences I've had at this university. I, like many of the students here, CSUN was originally not my first choice, but I could not possibly be happier to actually be an attendant, be a student here of CSUN. If you told Cheyenne Moshtail 4 years ago how happy he would be to be here and how this was ultimately the right choice and all the things that he's accomplished with his time here, he would maybe not believe it, but he would certainly be ecstatic. And this is an opportunity I want all Matadors to have. I want all Matadors to be able to be as proud as I am and be able to achieve all the things that I've done and all the things that I've accomplished and memories I've made with my time here. And that's something I think I'll be able to provide or sponsor or be able to assist or help with during my presidency. And I think I've done this to an extent so far, but I want to take it that much further.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cheyenne. So we'll begin with the questions. The first question is, what motivated you to run for this position? What sparked your interest?
What originally motivated me to run for this position was actually the election from a year ago, because I worked in Associated Students and I followed that election closely. And I thought to myself, oh, wouldn't it be interesting or wouldn't it be funny if I ran? But I never took the idea seriously. But towards the start of this year, I started taking the idea a little bit more seriously. And I think under the administration and presidency of our current AS president, Jonathan Hay, he's become a bit of a mentor to me, of not a father figure, but a brother figure, perhaps. That's a good word for it. He's been a real brother to me, an older brother. And I've learned so much from him about responsibility. Another one of my heroes is Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. And I think that's something that Associated Students has provided me. And that's a power that comes with a responsibility. And so between these ideals and what I've learned from Jonathan Hay, I kind of took a look around and took a look at myself. And I thought, I think this is a position that I would do well in. And I kind of consider myself, not to toot my own horn too much, but I kind of consider myself the ultimate in people persons. And I think what better fit for a presidency would there be than myself? That's tooting my own horn a little bit. But yeah, so all of these things kind of motivated me. And I started thinking about this idea more and more seriously. And I was so invested, and I love my work in Associated Students so much that I realized this is something that I really wanted.
Thank you. So next question, what would you say are the most important challenges that our school is facing right now, and how do you plan to address them?
I think there's a lot of things that we've done successfully with this year's administration, but that doesn't mean that there weren't challenges and there aren't persisting challenges. For example, a challenge that comes with returning to campus is the actual return to campus. And what that brings along is some of the major difficulties we're seeing is bringing students back in a way that students want to be involved and actually excited again, because we're seeing a massive decrease in student involvement. And I believe this is something that needs to be addressed and fixed. So student involvement actually causes a lot of problems across the board when it's lacking, being involved in your classwork. But it doesn't end at the classroom. The university experience does not end at the classroom. There's clubs and organizations. There's all the other services that our university provides. And clubs and organizations are seeing dwindling membership counts. They're seeing dwindling involvement in terms of leadership and administration as well. And these are all things that, from that root problem of involvement and community, this has become a much larger problem than originally anticipated. And we really want to tackle this, myself and all the wonderful senators that I'm running with. And we want to be able to bring that excitement back and make it, the Matador experience. And students want to be involved. They should want to be involved, but that isn't there quite yet. And we hope to bring that back with, being able to propel clubs and organizations and all the wonderful things that they offer, getting students really excited and, making associated students known and making it known that we're here for you, and being able to showcase the ways that students can get involved, not just in that context, but in all the contexts that the universities offer.
Speaking about involvement, we would like to know specifically, how can you improve student involvement on campus? What specific plans do you have to boost it up?
We have a few plans thus far. We want to be able to put on both large and small scale events for all the students. And this can range from weekly things to the much more massive events that students know and love, like Big Show. Obviously, this is an existing event, but we want to be able to put on more things like this, the really hype things that you're looking forward to all year. And of course, the much smaller things like clubs and organizations, because there's a variety of them that meet on a weekly basis. Obviously, that's not something that Associated Students does, but we want to work closely both in that context and aspect to be able to further elevate them and really bring more attention to them, so more students can access them and see, hey, there's a really cool board game club or my very own comic book club. And there's all the different clubs based around cultures and ethnicities. There's dozens, way more than dozens of ways to get involved. But yeah, and our senators themselves have plans to put on events. And this is a very different kind of involvement. This is a more academic, educational involvement, where there's networking events where you can network with students from your own college, network with alumni from the university, network with professionals in the field, network with companies looking to hire. And these are all the different ways that you can get involved, both in educational and non-educational aspects. So yeah, definitely, these are some of the things that our administration and myself want to be able to do to really boost involvement. And I believe some of it will occur naturally just as, the pandemic dies down and we move more and more back onto campus, but some of it needs to be that conscious effort on our part.
Thank you for that. And you mentioned accessibility.
Mhm.
So how do you plan to make Associated Students itself more accessible to all student populations? For example, some student populations that we've been talking about within AS now are transfer students, commuter students, parent scholars,
Mhm.
for example.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for that question. And I think a lot of the ways we want to make things accessible, and I think this is a quote that I use not necessarily often, but I think is very emblematic of that, is it is different to say that an opportunity is available versus to actively encourage that opportunity for all. And so to make things more accessible, we don't want to just present it as available. We wanted to actively encourage it for everyone, like we're doing this year with parent scholars, like we're doing this year with a lot of other groups on campus as well, most notably parent scholars. But we want to really go out and show that Associated Students is available for all of these groups, and we're going to do so by being able to put on these more tailored specific events, like we've done for parent scholars this year. For next year, some of the plans that we have is for, like for different colleges, we'll be working with senators within the administration, such as within health and human development, having Associated Students events more tailored to deaf or hard of hearing students or that major. And there's lots of different ways we can target that and target to different colleges, engineering, political science, the entirety of the College of Social and Behavioral Sciences. And so this will further accessibility. And another way we also really want to target accessibility and in general make things more accessible is through transparency and just making a lot of the systems of the university more transparent, making Associated Students more transparent. And we'll do this by just increasing, how well known it is within the university. Because I know I myself at some point, I didn't know what AS was. I know my vice president didn't know what AS was. I know a lot of our senators don't. A lot of senators from this year did not know previously. And once these students became aware of what it is and what it has to offer, I think they understand, like, hey, this is a great thing that is available to all of us on campus. It's a great way to get involved. I know it's made it a lot more fulfilling for me. And I think we'll be able to offer that to a lot more students with just increasing awareness and making it more transparent.
As a quick follow-up to that, thank you for that. Specifically, something that's come up this year is as students are coming back to campus, a lot of students haven't really been on campus, so therefore they don't know about AS. What are some moves that you're planning to make to welcome in the New Year's students and make sure that they know that AS is here for them?
Thank you so much for that question, because I actually was inspired by something that was done this year by our president, Hay. We had a welcome back week, and I think that was an extraordinary event, because I cannot think of something more fun than you come back on your first week of campus, and then there's a go-kart driving around just handing out gift cards and other cool stuff, and just, we're there to explain what Associated Students is. And I think even last semester, when things were a little bit less on campus, there were great tabling events where we got to tell students, we are your primary advocate of this campus. We're here to represent you, be your voice. We are your student body. And I think through events such as that Welcome Back Week, the Kindness Week, I really want to be able to bring these events back, do them again, because if they were fun for me, they got to be a lot of fun for the students receiving gift cards. And I know students, you probably love receiving gift cards, because I'm a student, I love receiving a gift card. I can tell by that smile, you probably love receiving a gift card. So I think we can bring a lot of awareness to Associated students by putting on these really great fun events, doing all the tabling, just getting out there in classes. I know we offer a University 100 class, and we go into those classrooms and provide presentations on what Associated Students is, and I think that's something we should start doing again as well. So there's really a plethora of things we can do, and I want to be able to enact all of these things.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would just like to say to the audience, if you do have any questions that you would like to ask our presidential candidate and our vice presidential candidate, make sure to put them in the chat. That way we can start asking them questions that you all have. So going back to the questions that we have at the moment, what will be your first step in your position if you are voted in as the next Associate Students President?
I think the first step that I would take would be to really get together with the entirety of the administration and brainstorm, what do we all want to accomplish? Not just myself. What do we all want to accomplish? It's really, at the end of the day, I want to be able to sit down with each and every one of our senators, each member of our administration, and ask, what do you want to do? What is it that you're here to do? Why are you here, and what are you doing here? And really get to hear all of their ideas and brainstorm collectively as well as on an individual basis and really propel forth their ideas. Because I think at the end of the day, I'm here to make a change, and I'm here to enact the ideas that I want to enact. But even more so, it's about the ideas of the entirety of the administration and making sure we're all one cohesive whole. So that very first step should be getting together, making sure everything's compatible, working out any conflicts of ideas or ideology, and getting the best solutions out there, working all together. I know that's something that they've done in previous administrations, that's something they've done in current administration, and that's something I want to do to the max this year, this upcoming year.
A follow-up question. What specifically do you want to do? What is a platform that you're running on this year?
I think one of the platforms we're running on, our platform is rather massive. I know something very stereotypical that I see about a lot of Associated Students campaigns is that there's three main pillars and three main ideas. And I kind of thought, well, we should have more than that. If that's the standard, we should have 4, 5, 6, 7, and that's something that we kind of did. So there's lots of things we want to run on. We want to run on transparency, involvement, accessibility, just general good ideas. We want to be able to introduce a lot of the issues, actually listen to the issues and concerns of students as well, because I know something that I hear a lot, obviously this is anecdotal, but I know a lot of students in the classrooms that I see feel uncomfortable to an extent sharing their opinion. And I don't believe this is necessarily an issue of free speech or anything, but it is, as I said before, it is one thing to be able to have the right to share your opinion versus to have it be actively encouraged. And so this is also an issue of community and inclusivity. So I think I want to be able to really address those things as well. And there's a lot of things to address. And some of them take very minor steps. Some of them will be year-long projects, such as transparency. I know a lot of students want to be able to know more about the hiring process for our university. That's something that I think as members of associated students, we get to be involved in a little bit more, but I want to be able to expand that even further to the entirety of the student body. Just general good ideas and epicness. Things have to be epic. Things need to be done all the way. Full send, as they call it. So everything should be done with a heap and helping of epicness, heap and helping of full sending all the way. We cannot half commit to an idea. It must be genuinely committed to and followed through with. And that's just, obviously those are some of the ideas that I mentioned, but all of the above listed, they will be done in such a manner. Thank you.
Another follow-up question. You talked about transparency. How specifically, how will you ensure that transparency is ensured for students all across, and how will you make sure that students know about this? You know, there is some talk that like students don't know about associate students. How will you ensure that students know about associate students and the transparentness about it?
To answer the second part of your question first, how will students know about associated students? I touched on this a little bit before, but obviously we want it to do it to an even greater scale through things like the Kindness Week, where we have the big cart that says associated students on top. We want to have all the tabling events where students can come in and learn. But even with all these things, students still don't know enough. And I think that's why it's important to really teach students about associated students as integral element to the university through education, and that's why we have U100 classes, and part of the U100 classes, this is an element that was previously there but hasn't been incorporated for the past few years. Something that I want to have us start doing again is going into those classrooms and being able to tell everyone in those classrooms, all of those freshman students and transfer students, about AS, and then they can know right there in that class that teaches you all about all these wonderful resources. They can learn about it right there. So that's a little bit about how I want people to really learn more about AS and really get it out there. And we can never guarantee that 100% of the university is going to know about it. But if we can help one more student each day, one more person, that's a better help than we were before. And I think that'd be fantastic. And to help with transparency, I think there's things we can do, and things such as the hiring process to make things more transparent. I know that we as associated students, we do a lot of things on a weekly basis that the student body just doesn't know about. We do things in committee meetings, we do things in Senate meetings. And all of that information is public knowledge. It's all documented in minutes, it's all recorded, but the average student is not gonna go looking for that. So we're trying to make things like that more well-known as well. I know I do Senate in a minute, but it doesn't have the broad reach and appeal that I would quite like it to. So we're just gonna, I wanna try to explore all the avenues we possibly can. Making those videos to tell students, hey, here's what we're doing this week. Similarly, again, instead of just having it there, actually encouraging it. So promoting this stuff across the board, having it front page of the website if possible. I think our CSUN website is great. To my knowledge, it's going under a revamp soon. It's being changed. That change will be for the better, and information will be more easily accessible, and with more accessible information, it will also be more transparent.
All right. You kind of mentioned a little bit about this, but one of the big things that's been in conversation is diversity in faculty. How will you help ensure that there are more diverse faculty across campus?
Well, that's a great question. So I think that to ensure a more diverse faculty in a variety of facets, I think there's things that active measures that have been taken this year. We actually passed a resolution within Senate this year, very landmark resolution. A lot of students were very happy about this. It was worked on for a long time about diversifying faculty. So as the potential elected CSUN president, I want to follow up with administration and follow through, make sure that that resolution is followed through on, to make sure that diversity is ensured, both for faculty, both culturally, diversity of thought, diversity of race, ethnicity, culture, all kinds of diversity, because what is diversity if not all categories of diversity, and ensuring that that is maintained. And I think that's something that we will actively have conversations about with the CSUN administration, my apologies, to make sure that it is followed through with.
Wonderful. And this is It's a little bit different, but a little bit related. This is a question that came in from the audience, and it's specifically about a certain student group. What would you do to promote more representation and participation of the deaf community on campus?
I'm very glad that you asked that question because a certain movie won Best Picture at the Oscars the other night, and I think that was a great movie, so semi-related, but just on that note as well. I think to be able to promote that, to my understanding and knowledge, the Deaf Studies major at CSUN is one of the most successful and popular majors and one of the most prestigious groups that CSUN has on this campus. And I myself, I definitely need to make a greater effort to make myself more educated on that group and community and to be able to better support them. But I know that CSUN offers a fantastic array of support for deaf students, being one of the most widely known campuses for the deaf community and for the Deaf Studies department. For example, I know we offer interpreters, I believe 48 hours in advance. They must be requested. My apologies if that is an incorrect figure, but yeah, so I think between interpreters and live ASL services and all the other things that we do, I think we already do a lot for that department, but that's something where I'd really need to like sit down and listen with that group and see what further concerns we could address.
Sure.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Can you talk about a concrete action you will take to increase student involvement and increase transparency?
I think a concrete action that I will take to increase student involvement is to work closely with, well, just to clarify for students real quick, there is a cabinet, there is a chair of clubs and orgs, and I think to increase student involvement, I will be working closely with the chair of clubs and orgs and conducting polling with students and see, first of all, why are they maybe not interested in being involved in something such as clubs and orgs, and then work closely with the chair in order to get more students actually involved in clubs. And so things that I can do is have associated students put on more events. I know the Matador Involvement Center puts on such events such as the clubs and orgs Meet the Clubs. So Meet the Clubs is a great way for students to get involved. However, I believe Associated Students can have its own version of that, and we can have that occur more frequently. Another service that we offer is Madison, where you can meet up with clubs. And I think Associated Students can really be there and kind of, you know, all clubs and organizations have an advisor, but we can also act as a sort of advisor for these groups in order to be able to further support, cement, and act as a foundation for that student involvement.
All right. Thank you. What do you imagine when someone brings up the title of president of California State University Northridge Associated Students?
When I think of the president of the California State University Northridge, I think of my good friend Jonathan Hay. I think of really nice pens. I think of a suit and tie. I'm a big fan of ties. I'm a big fan of suits. I think of the massive role and responsibility that you have to take on. I think of the AS office that I spend time in every day. I think of all the wonderful friends that I've made. I think of my friend, the president. I think of the role that I could be taking on this upcoming next year. I think of the massive role and responsibility that it'll be for me. And I think of how I'll be taking on that responsibility to the best of my capabilities.
Thank you. Before I move on to closing remarks, actually, I wanted to ask, how prepared do you feel to speak in a room full of high-level administrators and make sure that student voices are heard in these conversations?
I think if there's one thing I feel prepared to do, and I feel prepared to do many things actually, but if there was only one thing, well, there isn't only one thing, but if there was only one thing, it'd be able to speak in front of a room full of high-level administrators and voice student concerns. I'm very eager and ready to hear student concerns. I think that's obviously one of as the voice and advocate for students, that's the thing that I should be doing the most, and I need to be taking that back to administrators and expressing them. And that's something that I've done in my past 2 years working in AS. That's one of my favorite pastimes is speaking in general, speaking to my good buddies, speaking to administrators. And that's something your original question was, how prepared am I? I'm gonna give myself a 10 out of 10 preparedness. That's a good, I think that's a good, fair rating, hopefully.
All right, thank you for that. Do you have any closing remarks that you'd like to share with the voters?
Yes, I do have some closing remarks. I would like to share with the voters that I'm eager and excited to be able to serve as your president As I mentioned earlier, my favorite superheroes, top two for sure. Can't decide more than that. They're like choosing between my two favorite children, Batman and Spider-Man. But let's focus on Spider-Man here specifically for a second. The famous line uttered by Uncle Ben, with great power comes great responsibility. As I mentioned earlier, I feel like there is no greater power at this university than to serve as the student body president. And this is indeed a responsibility. And I find that I have this power and I'm ready to serve this responsibility as well. And in my time here, as I mentioned at the beginning, I was not the most excited to attend this university, but now I cannot be more proud. With the people I've met, the friends I've made, some of them being in this room, the people I've worked with, some of them being in this room, I could not be happier, and I'd like to express my gratitude and sentiments for being able to be here on this stage and have the opportunities that I've already had and all the opportunities that I could have in the future. And the love I have for everything that I've done thus far, how happy I am in every moment. I'm very excited for this. I hope that this opportunity comes to fruition. I hope that this is what the students desire, and I'm ready to deliver on anything the students would like me to deliver on within reason. Thank you. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So now I think we will have our VP candidate come on up. Eden, would you like to join us up at the podium? And Eden, I apologize. I do not want to mispronounce your last name. Could you pronounce it for us?
Sure. First of all, thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Eden Shashua. So it's like Joshua, but with an SH.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. Do you have any opening remarks that you'd like to give to the voters?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Matadors. My name is Eden Shashua. I'm a double major in business law and business honors with a minor in communications. I'm a junior, and I am very excited to be running for this position alongside Cheyenne and our wonderful, incredible slate Matadors Assemble. And I feel that with the opportunities that we've been given, we are ready and capable to lead our Matadors into a successful upcoming year.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I think we'll hop right into the questions. And again, audience, at any point, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask our VP candidate, please put them in the chat and we will get to those. So first question, what motivated you to run for this position and what sparked your interest in it?
Thank you for that question. That's a really good one. So being a student at CSUN, I didn't really know about AS until really, I would say, last year. During the election. And I think that coming into this year with the transition back to campus, I realized that it would be something that I would be interested in, especially since I, through my experience at CSUN, I've been given the opportunity to, join different clubs and organizations and meet new people and network with different professors who have become my mentors. And I've, learned so many skills when it comes to leadership and communication and team building that I thought that going into my senior year, it would be a great opportunity for me to, initiate giving back to the community that has given so much to me. So when the opportunity presented itself, I decided that it would be the right choice to run for this position alongside Cheyenne and give back to the community and the home that I built for myself here.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. What is your understanding of how Associated Students operates? What do you see the limitations of what Associated Students can accomplish? And how can you keep from promising unrealistic deliverables?
Thank you for that question. So having no prior experience in AS, I do know that it's a little bit more of a challenge for me to kind of navigate, but the first thing I am promising to do is to really educate myself on, understanding really what AS is all about. And I know to a certain extent, especially with this year's administration and since the previous election, I've learned more and more about it. And really, from what I have learned is that AS is the student body government that is really there to be a support for students and to really be the voice of students when they are feeling concerned or just have questions or have ideas that they want to bring to the table. I know that those were certain things that I had thought of originally when, interested in this position. And one of what I always say to prevent myself from making any promises that I don't necessarily know I can keep is kind of trying to keep within a realistic framework. And first understanding what it means and the opportunities we have to work within, and then working practically and brainstorming to, create more opportunities and use the the power that we have to create change and more.
Thank you. And this is kind of a follow-up almost to that question. Specifically, what do you believe the role of the vice president is for associated students?
So I think that the role of the vice president is to first and foremost support the president and support the senators. Obviously, I'll probably be working most with the senators, and I think that having that very close relationship and being that support system for them to, for them to be able to express their ideas and to help them practically and reasonably put them into fruition. I think that's really the main responsibility, but even more so to be that advocate for students and be that additional voice that can support them in their needs.
Thank you. And I want to ask one more follow-up to that,
Yeah, of
actually. If you are voted in, what is something that you're planning to take personal responsibility on, like right when you start?
Thank you for that question. That's a really good one. The main thing that I think I want to focus on is rebuilding that community. I know that in the last 2 years, we, online, that social interaction aspect wasn't really there. And me being, a student online, it's very hard to sometimes have the courage to send an email through Canvas and, contact another student to have help with an assignment or to ask a question. And I think that fear might also, resonate with some other students. So I think the first thing that I really want to focus on is to rebuild that sense of community and make students, again, more comfortable with having that social interaction and meeting each other and professors and AS as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Talking about getting involved on campus, how are you going to help improve the campus spirit now that we're back in person?
Thank you. So one thing that I really wanted to do is, similar to what Shan was saying, is to create more outreach. I think that, because of because people are still transitioning and they're still sort of nervous to kind of either meet friends or put themselves out there. Having more outreach, doing a little bit more in-person outreach, not just social media outreach, is really important so that people also see the faces of the people who are representing them and who are their support system. So, increasing different tabling events, putting tabling events in different areas of campus that not all students would go to, so that they are aware that here's an AS table, here's an AS table, and they have more faces to meet.
Thank you. So next question, and this is a similar question that we asked Cheyenne. How comfortable are you with advocating for students who are in a room with high-level administrators that maybe didn't answer your full question and kept going on? How comfortable do you feel like kind of pushing on that?
So I think that's obviously a skill that can always be improved. I know that as part of the speech and debate team, I kind of have to, push for certain things, especially when I'm competing. So I would say I'd give myself like a good 8.5 out of 10. And I think that I'm obviously open and I'm striving to work towards becoming even more comfortable. But I think that having the president and the vice president there helps, so that if one feels that their voice is not, getting to the administrators, the others can support them. So I think having that supportive team is also really helpful. And so in terms of preparedness, again, 8.5 out of 10.
Um,
reasonable.
A follow-up question to that. Have you talked to any high-level administrators here on campus, either recently or like when you first came to campus? And if you did, what was your experience talking to them?
So, when you say high-level administrators, do you mean more like faculty or like deans, chairs?
Deans, chairs, vice presidents, presidents of CSUN.
So, I haven't had I haven't had the chance to speak with different high-level administrators. I've had the opportunity to speak with different professors who run different organizations, like the speech and debate team, for example. Only because just with the timing and schedule, my own personal conflicts. However, I have attended a town hall or a few town halls, so I did see what like a senator would have to do to kind of interact with a dean or a chair of a school. So from that interaction, I saw how kind of things work, and I really liked it to see that interaction because it was very respectful, it was very welcoming, and you can really see that even our administration, they really want what's best for the students, and they're willing to put themselves out there to discuss any sort of concerns or matters at all.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now that we're back on campus, safety is a big concern across students, across the board. Housing are those who are commuting or staying here late at night. How do you plan to improve safety and security here on campus?
Thank you for that question. So in terms of safety on campus, I think it's very important that we have a police services presence so that students feel safe, and because, you know, obviously a police service has been proven to reduce different crime rates and make people feel safe. And so I think having that presence is important. However, I do know that there have been some concerns about the police force making students feel unsafe. But I think there's always room to reform and create different policies that can balance students feeling safe and the actual safety of having police on campus.
Thank you. I want to remind the audience, if you have any questions, please send them in the chat and we will happily ask them for you. What are there any issues that you feel are really important to mention here and that you plan to like work on in the position?
So similar to what I mentioned earlier, I think that because we are transitioning back and students are, there is a little bit of a lower involvement in different clubs and organizations and just on campus itself. I think that the biggest thing that I want to work towards is, again, rebuilding that community and making students aware that AS exists and that we are there for them and we are their friendly neighborhood Spider-Mans. And so that's, like, I would say my biggest initiative, and that I think starts with creating that increased outreach to the students, whether it's through that in person, whether it's through additional marketing or revamping different marketing strategies, so our student body is aware that we're there for them.
Talking about marketing strategies, do you have any any ideas on how we can help regarding the marketing of association to CSUN? Do you have any like concrete plans or like any ideas that have been floating around?
That's a good question. So as a business student, I definitely do have certain ideas. I think that specifically from a social media point of view, I think there could be more marketing done, specifically with letting students know at least a week or so in advance, just so they can, you know, mark it on their calendars, but just keep those reminders going. That's the first thing. Another thing would just also be having those, like, I don't know if this is possible, but something like having, you know, students sort of, when they're tabling, also kind of, you know, introduce different events, not just have those events at the tabling. And I think there are other social media strategies we could use to market a little bit better, but primarily those two were my initial ideas.
Thank you. And since we have no questions from the audience, what do you think are going to be your first steps if you are voted in?
I think that similar to what Cheyenne was saying, I think it's really important to meet with administration and to even meet with the students and, you know, create a set of goals that each of them want to reach so that we can see where we can either meet in the middle or how we can compromise to, you know, move forward and create those opportunities that the students and the administration want. And additionally, again, with that idea of community, I think that the biggest thing I would do is really, you know, even just walking up to students, letting them know, hi, I'm here and I'm the vice president and this is my role and I want you to know that we're all here for you, and just kind of walk around and really let people know what AS is and that we're here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Since there are no questions, we'd like to give you a chance to present a closing statement for all of the students, voters, anybody here watching the stream or who is going to watch it later.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for that opportunity. So I just want to say, first of all, thank you for everyone who joined. As a CSUN student, I am grateful for the family that I've built here, for the friends I've made, for the community that has provided so much for me and so much for the people I love and cherish in this community. And I just want to reiterate that we, as the potential candidates, will be, God willing, really trying to recreate that community and that involvement that students need. And with Cheyenne, myself, and our amazing slate, Matadors Assemble, we are ready and excited and super hyped to make this the most epic year ever. Thank you.
Thank you. We actually just got a question in the chat.
Sure.
Would you like to answer this question?
Yeah, go for it.
Thank you. So the question was, can you talk about concrete actions you will take to increase student involvement and increase transparency?
So for sure about the student involvement, I think, like I said earlier, I think that having more in-person type of events, whether that is tabling or whether it is having different members of AS, whether that's senators or the president, vice president, etc., just kind of really walk around campus and introduce themselves to different groups of students to have them be aware of who we are, and not just in certain locations. Like, I know a very popular location is the campus store or by the Matador statue or right by Sierra, those little tabling areas. But I think that if we had more table spaces or had more AS members walking around and introducing themselves, that's definitely how we can increase involvement. In terms of transparency, I think that's definitely something we as a slate and administration kind of need to work together for to increase, but that's definitely something we will workshop and be doing, and we will make students aware of as the year progresses.
Thank you. And we received another question. What is a moment that you've had at CSUN that you cherish the most or has inspired you further as a student/leader?
Oh, that's a really good question. Thank you. I would say one of my most memorable moments is my first tournament at the speech and debate team. It was at Fall Champs, and it was my first time ever doing this sort of thing, and I was really, really nervous. But I did it, and I actually won second place. And it was a really big moment for me because I realized that I'm a lot more capable than sometimes I give myself credit for. And so that kind of inspired me to move forward and you know, propel myself to try other things, try new things, and meet new people and become a little bit more extroverted than I originally was coming into CSUN. And as a leader, I think specifically with speech and debate, that idea of being able to speak to others and really create that presentation, I think it's a key aspect the leader has to have, being able to communicate and being able to present themselves appropriately and accordingly. So that kind of helped me, I guess, push towards becoming that more communicative leader that I think that's my ideal to become.
Thank you.
That's wonderful.
Thank
So,
you.
another question popped up. Outreach has been done in the past, but hasn't really worked or been beneficial. How else would you go about getting students engaged rather than just using social media to promote? And how would you target students who are simply just commuters and come to class, who just come simply just for class only?
That's a great question. Well, as a commuter student myself, I think that making, especially something like with Meet the Clubs, and I think that, again, I know I'm going to go back into the marketing, but advertising our organizations and having events near those buildings maybe perhaps would kind of encourage students to look into things, because you know, it just kind of is like, oh my gosh, hey, what's that? What's going on over there? So I think it would be having those kind of different ways of outreaching, starting with social media and starting with tabling in diverse places around campus. We would be able to kind of create that more involvement, especially in commuter students. I also think it's a matter of perspective. So I think that you as a student also have to want to be involved. And I think that if you have that perspective, especially as we transition back to campus and we, you know, relive that campus experience, as you know, we call it, you also have to want to make the step towards being involved in your community.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was all the, oh, there's one more. What have you been personally involved in on campus other than the debate team?
Oh, sure. So I'm also a sister of Sigma Alpha Epsilon Pi. I held 4 positions in that sorority. I am also an intern at Hillel 818, which is a Jewish organization on campus. I'm also very involved with Chabad of CSUN, which is another Jewish organization on campus. And I'm also part of the Pre-Law Association, and I'm doing moot court as we speak. I'm preparing for that. So I've been quite involved, and also just meeting a lot of different people and networking throughout the business school, which provides a lot of different opportunities. So,
Perfect. Thank you.
thank you.
And I'd also like to thank everybody here who is watching, who has questions, and who is watching later tonight, or later tomorrow, or later next week. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And I'd like to all remind you that voting starts on April 11th at 8 a.m., and it will last until April 13th at 6 p.m. So make sure you go out and vote.
And the ballots will be available in your student email, so make sure to check that. It's all done virtually, and everyone has an individualized ballot.
Thank you so much for attending.
Go get your popsicles.
Yeah.